4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to
Buckle up, baby.
Episode
6. So far, the hardest one.
You really mean that every time, Michael, or it's shtick at this point?
I think it's mostly shtick, but we ran into some hiccups this time. We're in a new place, a new spot.
Let's just double check your audio here because we're amateurs. And right into the mic, say hello.
Hello.
Say hello to the folks.
Hello, everybody.
Very good. And now the logo, which we are loving on here on Buckle Up. Two dick-shaped microphones and our little sack and a half.
Doesn't quite connect. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of likes on the reel, so we invested in a studio.
Yeah.
Put a fair amount of money down.
Yeah. We're in trouble.
Yeah, if this doesn't work.
Oh, that's right. We have to acknowledge.
If this episode doesn't work.
We have to acknowledge the new space. We are in our Studio B, or maybe this can be Studio A. I love it. We're in Michael's home setup over here, and I like it. It's a little echoey in this room, so we got to get some rugs and couches and stuff. Paint.
Gotta paint it.
It feels good. I like being out of my zone for a little bit. I needed this, so it was my idea.
Okay on the home front?
Everything's fine. Everything is totally fine. But anyway, lots to discuss because we weren't here last week.
Right.
We did a bonus episode because I was traveling in Los Angeles, and it was awesome. Let's talk about LA for a second.
Tell me about LA. Okay. How was it?
LA. So I lived in LA for the last 10 years, and I've just moved back to Jersey, where Michael and I were able to reconnect and start the Buckle Up podcast. So that's working out. But it's been a difficult thing to, leave LA after 10 years. Because if I think about it, like I'm 35 and I moved to Englewood as a kid. Like that's where I grew up, right? But I only lived there. So here's a crazy data point. Did I tell you this yet? I moved to Englewood when I was 10.
From Fort
Lee.
Right.
Yeah, that's the OG. If that's the right way to use that phrase. I never really know. But I moved to Englewood when I was 10.
Where you grew up.
I moved to Englewood when I was 10, right? I lived there till I was 18. It's 8 years. Went to Israel for the year. And then college for 4 years in Boston.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Right? And then Riverdale for 2 years when we got married. Then LA for 10 years. So technically, I lived in LA longer than I've ever lived in Englewood.
That's cool. When did you realize that? That's pretty crazy.
Now, look, it's like I lived in Jersey my whole formative life and childhood, and that's 10 to 18 is a huge time. It's a whole day, you're a different person when you come out. But like, in terms of time spent of my life, LA is more home to me than anything else in terms of length. Yeah. When I figured that out, I think I was just walking through Englewood, and I thought about it, and I'm like, have I ever lived anywhere for 10 years straight? Almost 10 years straight? And no, just LA. So, and it was a formative time, had all the kids there and all that stuff. So like, it's just... while I like look to Englewood as this is where I grew up, this is home. But if you think about it,
they say with New York, once you're there for 10 years, you're a New Yorker. So you, guess you're
an LA gone, Angelino. Yeah, but so I'm really fond of LA, and I'll always love LA forever. But at the same time, going back sometimes after you make a move, when you like go back, you assess how you feel. So there was certainly an aspect of it that was reinforcing and felt good about the fact that I did move.
That you made the right decision.
Okay, I moved, but it definitely felt like I no longer lived there, which was weird. I felt almost disoriented when I got there, like I was visiting. And you start noticing all the differences from where you currently live, like living the suburban life here and stuff, and you go to LA, and it's just... There's a sad state of affairs about LA that there's this complacency with the way everything is kind of decrepit and run down and all of those things. Those stood out to me when I lived there, but all the more so the ride back from LAX to where I was staying in LA. You just notice so much just unnecessary decrepitness. I mean, it's nice weather all year round. Everyone talks about that, the weather, but it doesn't look like Florida. It doesn't look like Miami. It's like gates that are just sort of like half collapsed and just dirt and like cracked sidewalks and random buildings, a car wash and then a gas station and then a restaurant and then a apartment building.
It's always been like that, right?
It's always been like that, but like I think it's gotten even more beat up over the last few years. And then as I spent more time there throughout the week, it was just serious suffering of LA as a city seems to have PTSD from COVID, where obviously we're not out of the woods yet from COVID fully, but as close as we're going to get before we completely forget about it, right? But in LA, it's still like this. Restaurants are still kind of shut down. They're still just doing takeout. Like if you look into a restaurant that's open, for the ones that are open, there's a lot of them that are just stocked up with boxes and the tables are like this and they're just serving. Right. And I'm like, there's no bounce back that I was feeling. And granted, we played a show in front of people and all of that, but people are still asking like, what's it going to be like? I don't know if we should go. There's this hesitancy, there's this concern. And I just don't know how grounded that is in the current state of where COVID is at, where it seems like all of those, hyper precautions people took have become habitual. Right. Where everyone's like, well, it's a big crowd, so I don't know. And I'm like, so you don't know what? Like, when did we ever say historically a big crowd is of concern? There's been germs since time immemorial, and now in the modern era, we're not like a germophobic society, even though we're trying to fight COVID. It's like we've made a lot of strides. Vaccines are effective. A lot of people are getting vaccinated. Right. And now it's like, you're waiting until every last kid is vaccinated now that that's approved. And that's going to be a struggle for a lot of people because there's going to be a lot of hesitancy around kids. So that's going to be a long ways away. But it just seems like LA has now just succumbed to this new normal of, I'll just have to see. I don't know. Concerned, like not going indoors. I'm like, when this first came out, when COVID first came out, and this will be the end of my rant. When it first came out, we were all worried about it, and nobody had any information about it, so there was a fog of war. But we knew it was super dangerous for older people, and as you work your way down, it's slightly less. But even the mortality rates for 40, 30 under crowd was 1%. It was a relatively small number, not something to be marginal or disregarded. But at this point, you mean to tell me we're not at the level of just like one of those things that's out there that we can resume life in with some normalcy? And there, it just is still this knee-jerk, culture of COVID that's taken over.
Do you think it's a manifestation of people just not wanting to be around other people, like just wanting to be alone and on their own and not going out? And this is just sort of a way to manifest that? Because I also don't see exactly what it has to do with.
I don't feel
the
it
spread.
Because I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't see it grounded in like scientific concern as much as that. But I wonder how much of it is just the exaggeration of the culture of LA that's already there, like a culture of sort of complacency and not pushing back. Like when I came to New York last year in February, every restaurant had a hut outside, and they were serving and working and doing what they had to do. And it was the middle of winter. And if you went to LA, where you could potentially have a restaurant everywhere outdoors, it's not an issue. Most places are just like, we'll see. We'll wait till they make the new set of standards, and we'll see what we can.
Was that, or was it that they didn't allow them to make? Like in New York, they sort of they changed the rules, so they said you can now take up part of the street.
Right. I'm not exactly sure if it's a policy thing that they were just abiding by, but there's also just a culture.
Attitude.
There's it could be that the policy reflects people just kind of bending over and saying, okay, whatever, we'll wait. All right, I guess there's not this now.
No work today.
And, I don't want to say I moved from LA, now I can just crap on it. I don't want to do that. But I'm just being my honest impressions of it was just it's so dead here and so unnecessarily dead. And now there's this issue of people who don't want to go back to work. So I think a lot of the restaurant issues is less COVID concerns and actual labor concerns, which got me thinking of another thing, which was... This is going to be a solo cast, this episode. Michael's going to be listening. No, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Because remember how in COVID, it was the first time where in the first world we were forced to face systems failing?
Mm-hmm. You and me were. Other people...
I said in the first world.
Well, there were other people in the first world whose systems had failed before
Not getting toilet paper. There's always been toilet paper available everywhere.
Well, okay, well, I hear what
I mean. I mean the basic things, systems. I mean it's the first time essential goods.
We experienced it.
Everyone
ourselves.
In the first world. I think everybody. You couldn't go to your average ShopRite or pharmacy and get toilet paper. I don't think toilet paper was ever an issue before this, or just essential basic goods, cheap goods. All of a sudden, just weren't there. In other words, things just stopped working the way they're just supposed to or expected to. That auto thing. And I remember I look around and I'm like, waiting for my flight to get to LA. It was a 3-hour delay at the gate. 3 hours. We're just like there. No announcements. Nobody saying anything.
That was this trip.
This trip.
Yeah.
I get to Newark Airport and I'm waiting for this flight, and it's just 1 hour, 2 hours. And then I'm like, at what point, we take for granted that it's just not supposed to be like that. But I'm not doing anything that demands it. It just always is like the airline, wants to keep its customers happy, and therefore things just kind of work naturally in that market of competitive industries. But with flying, especially now, everything is worse. And like things with ports and shipping and all these different things, like you can't get things that a couple of years ago you used to be able to get. And it's not because of the pandemic, but it is. So in the pandemic, like
Supply
heat of
chain.
it, in the heat of it, you were like, okay, there's this pandemic, it's going on, it's disrupting everything. And now it just seems like, what's happening? Things are not resuscitated. And I'm taking for granted, but we all just sat there and took it. Like 3 hours went by. I'm like, it could just be like this.
Right. Yeah, I think specifically it has to do with supply chain and logistics.
Yeah.
Consequences of the pandemic. But I totally hear what you're saying, where even if that wasn't the case, and if one day that's not the case, things just are shittier than they used to be, we'll just be like, all right, well, that's what it's like now. Okay. Like you got to give yourself 3 hours to get to the airport, and you don't expect to be home right when you land, because it's going to take some time.
At what point does that threshold break? Like I don't know what's kept things so good and in line. I mean, I'm speaking from coming from like everything kind of always working.
You know what we need? We need a president who's going to make things like they used to be.
Let's go, Brandon. What's the phrase? Do you know the phrase?
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. It's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon. Which is a meme, kind of I don't know enough about it, but you know how it happened, right?
Yeah.
What was it again?
Yeah, I think
there was a cheer.
Remember what happened at a hockey game? There's a cheer. Fuck you, Biden, and the newscaster was like,
I think they're saying,
I think they're saying, let's go, Brandon. So now it's kind of like
it's the new MAGA hat.
Surreptitious way to say it.
It's the new MAGA hat.
Is it really that?
No.
Has it caught on that much?
Figuratively speaking, that's what I mean. It's the new MAGA hat. When you see a picture of someone wearing a MAGA hat, they're like, this is where I'm at. And someone who writes in a t-shirt, let's go, Brandon, that's where I'm at. I'm waiting for 2024 or like, that's where I stand.
I think the attitude of fuck Biden more than I love Trump is healthier.
Why?
I like that. Because saying we're accepting the guy is in power and I'm not happy with how he's doing. Mm-hmm. Instead of like, I want to go back one. Let's go back one to the guy before.
Oh, you're like
it's like accepting the way things are, and I'm unhappy.
So you're saying
there's like living in a different reality.
You're right. So you're saying at least saying fuck you Biden is acknowledging Biden.
Right.
He's the guy who we have to hate now.
Right. And here are my reasons for hating him. Like, what is it?
That's very gracious of you to the January 6th Storm Capitol people. It's like, no, we're not like Trump 2020 anymore. We're just saying, fuck you, Biden. I accept you.
Yeah.
We hate you.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's find someone else if that's what you want to do.
Not to get too political unless you want to, but yeah, I mean, I brought it up to a friend who said to me, you know what? We don't all have to talk about the president all the time anymore. Okay, I don't like the guy either. All right, like we know this. We knew this going in because it's like you don't have to. One doesn't have to pretend anymore. Whether no matter how much you hated Trump, that Biden is
right. I think that's good progress. Like at least we can talk about that now.
Yeah, you're right. You can all we can
you couldn't
Trump
talk about
is safe
that during the
distance.
election.
There's a safe distance away from Trump that we can all say, okay, Biden's a schluffy grandpa, and he's going to these things, and he's even like what's it, Michael Rappaport? You know Michael Rappaport. Who hated Trump. Trump, you don't fuck. You don't fuck. He posted a video of. I did a video of his, and he shared it too. Good, thank you for Michael Rappaport for that. Even though he said,
Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Mike and Mike. He used to post
Thanks,
like,
Mike.
yeah, you orange little fuck. Yeah, your father didn't like you, you little fuck. Yeah. And then he posted a video of Biden. He's like, Biden, no, Sleepy Joe, don't fall asleep, you piece of shit. What are you doing? What are you doing? We're counting on you. It was like at the G4 summit.
Yeah.
Biden's like,
He fell asleep, right? I heard about that.
yeah, he dozed off.
Yeah. Which
He's so
I
old and
totally
he's so
get.
tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleepy Joe is a great nickname. I
Trump.
heard it the other day.
Sleepy Joe.
It's very
folks.
funny.
Sleepy Joe. He's great. I mean, Trump
makes you laugh.
was the best nicknamer in the history of. He came up with everything.
Still is.
I mean, even the people who hated Trump, remember the Make America Great Again? Everyone said, Make America Sane Again, Make America this. Every time they did something to try to combat Trump using his own slogan, it's kind of a win. You're giving one over.
He's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Very good at what he does. Did you see what's the new social media platform he's starting?
Truth.
It's called Truth.
I think so.
I heard a cool Crystal and Cigar were saying that his team was basically like, we can't run again in 2024 if we can't get on Facebook. That's like, that is how we won, and we can't do it again. And so they is it recording?
I think we're good. Yeah.
And so, well, they were saying if him starting this new platform and staying off Facebook and Twitter might be a sign he's not going to run again, because if he's accepting he's not going to be on Facebook and going to be exclusively on his own platform, it may be because he's like, we can't run again. Let's just do it. Let's just make money where we can.
I would think it's the exact opposite. It's like, they're not going to let me back on these platforms, but I need my voice heard for 2024.
But
so
then
I'm going
he's only talking to people already voting for him. Maybe that's enough. But he's not going to get...
You don't think his thing is going to get coverage once it starts?
It's not quite the same, though, as having Facebook algorithmically serving ads to people.
I hear that. But one way to consolidate all of Trump's support under one roof is by kicking him off all the other platforms and putting it into Truth, creating this
it sounds
massive swell. Apparently, I don't know the details of the finances, but the SPAC that raised the money for it, like, you're going to send everybody to one place. And now it's like you've basically galvanized all the troops.
Yeah. I wonder how different it is than someone's experience on Facebook can be that siloed, can be that echo chamber where they're only getting...
It's Meta now.
Right.
We could talk about that too. Did you see the ad for Meta?
I didn't. No, I saw articles about it. I didn't watch the thing.
It looks like the beginning of a dystopian movie.
Yeah, he scares me.
It's like...
I saw this...
You can't have a guy who's on this... You can't have a guy who has no social skills designing social media.
Yeah.
And he's like on the spectrum. Something's, he's like, when he talks, very robotic, and it's just this ironic thing. He must, like, it seems like he has this disdain for humanity, like real humanity, like this.
Yeah.
So he creates a virtual world in which we can all connect together. There's something so obviously, like, sinister. You can't say that. I'm not describing. It's more that it's like you can't write this stuff.
Yeah.
This guy who's like, they picked on me in high school. They picked on me in college. I will put them into the metaverse and they will be shut down. I'm sorry. You've been terminated. If he's a robot that is actually going to kill us all, it's you. We all saw it coming.
Yeah. I saw this meme where it was just the top of his head and his hairline. And someone wrote like, I fucking hate that I know who this is just from this. It was amazing.
So now it's Meta.
Meta's scary. I heard a cool take on it by this Fred Wilson. Has a blog. He's a VC in New York, and he pointed to this Twitter thread. It was a cool explanation of Meta. Like, the way Zuckerberg explains it sounds insane and scary and post-apocalyptic. This guy was explaining that...
Pause. The way Zuckerberg explained it. He could have said all the right things with a normal human affect, and we would have been like, nice.
Right.
But it's the way.
It's so rehearsed.
And it's so not... it's like that. That's what's so... If he got up there and was like, so we're going to all be able to connect, and it's going to be so... If he packaged everything he said with a tone of a human being, we'd all be like, okay.
If Elon Musk did it, he should have just gotten Elon Musk.
Elon Musk also was a bit odd. He's like,
he's odd, but he's not quite as...
not as...
disconcerting.
And then when he like had his wife patch in, he's like, so are you going to meet me later for drinks? Sure. Should we bring the dog? That would be great. What were you saying?
I gotta watch
this guy,
it.
the VC.
Well, he was explaining that what the metaverse is when we cross a certain threshold of how important our digital lives are to us. So start off at 0%. And then, let's say when TV, this is what he said, when TV came around, it was like 50%. You spend like 50% of your time in sort of this like digital world. Right. And then when mobile came out and the internet came out, it kind of jumped to like maybe 80%, where like you're spending 80% of your time in this digital world. And like what happens to you there is extremely important to your identity, your brand, the interactions you have. And there's going to come a time where we're actually at like 95% of our world, and what's important to us and where we spend our time is, maybe it's not looking at a screen, maybe it's like in our glasses or literally in our, whatever it is, 95% of what's important to you is in the digital world. And when that happens, that's called the metaverse, and there's going to be an economy there, and you're going to be able to buy things there, and the things you wear there are going to matter, and like the way you however it works with, you're paying for things with cryptocurrency, and you're not dressing yourself in clothes, but your skin is going to be like these NFTs, not skin, but your like avatar or whatever it is. I thought that was a cool way to explain it. And he just may be, 10, 15 years ahead of the curve there. But it's not hard to imagine in 10, 15 years thinking about 95% of my attention being in the digital space.
Can you say that all one more time? Because I'm kidding.
Does that
I
make
find
any
it
sense?
interesting. Totally. What he's really just talking about is there isn't this new thing called the metaverse.
No.
It's just the evolution of a gradual immersion with technology.
Exactly.
Like we used to frequent the theater once in a while and we check out a piece of media, a piece of film, and that was a nice time. And then we come back after an hour and we get back to life here.
Yeah.
And then the TV brought us closer. And the phone brought us closer. And now it's swallowing us whole.
It's a natural evolution.
But you know what's
towards
funny?
that.
Like I tend to be optimistic like him about it, or he's just being neutral as an analysis, it sounds.
Yeah. No, he used the same word. It's not something that someone's going to
Foreign.
make. It's going to be a natural occurrence.
Now-
and then we'll find ourselves in something called the metaverse.
Everyone likes to focus on all the negative parts of technology and the fear mongering about it. Oh my God, look what it's doing. But it is sort of a natural evolution. You can't fight it. So the question is how to make the most positive experience out of it, as opposed to resisting it. Because people, if you resist it, that's a losing battle. It's just a part of. It's like resisting the weather.
Right. And what Facebook or what Zuckerberg wants is to be the platform on which it all happens.
Right. Now, the digital climate around us just happens, and whether you try to withdraw from it or not, it's not like you have to participate. But to say to try to fight it is a huge mistake. I do think it's one thing I thought about when I saw Zuckerberg's little presentation. He put out this ad in which he showed this like beta tested version of what it's like, and it's kind of bizarre. But then I thought about it for a second, and I said, what if there was a way, because part of it is being away from LA and missing my friends there and crew and life there. Like, what if there's a way to wire in and strap on the goggles, right? The VR, and sit with a bunch of people. The avatars kind of weird me out. What if you could just like make digital representations that looked fairly close to you, and you could sit and have an experience with friends? What?
And then there's the one, everyone else is normal. There's the one guy who's like,
Yeah, that'll be
like
a thing
an
too. It'll be like,
ogre.
Yeah, it was like, Sal showed up wearing his wings.
Sal.
What if there was a way to sit with a bunch of people and feel like you got to have quality time with them in a way you never physically could before? And I thought to myself, I've been doing Zoom since I came back here with the band. We've been gone fully remote. We have one of us in Nashville, one of us in LA, and one of us here. And one of the things I noticed most in the age where Zoom is not just the next best thing to real life, making the most of it, so we Zoom, but an actual necessary component of living remotely, which just didn't exist before. We saw each other again in LA and it was great, but we also didn't feel like we didn't see each other. Like, it wasn't like we bumped into them where we were like, how's it going?
Right.
We had been Zooming twice a week, 3 times a week up until that point. And what Zoom created was a rapport and a connectivity that just didn't exist living far away beforehand. It changed the nature of long distance relationships, business, artistic, creative, in a way that I thought was really palpable, and in a similar way to what email did for staying in contact. Before there was email at the same time as cell phones, or later even? It was probably later.
Emails from the 70s, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm reading
Interesting.
about a
Well,
bunch
I'm
of-
saying when it was commercialized and popularized.
Right,
We weren't
yeah.
emailing, I don't think, in the 90s.
I think.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, there were.
Let's just
emails.
say all around that time. But
Sure.
when it was just a cell phone, you had to make a call to somebody to stay in touch, which is a proactive thing. But email sort of makes it so that it's just no big deal. Oh yeah, we to do certain things and connect and stay in touch in certain ways. And Zoom is doing that in a much more personal way. You're seeing somebody and you're like seeing how they are, how they're dressed, what it's like, their environment in these little micro ways. And I just thought the metaverse, whatever that will turn into, could be just a really positive, not fully, have a downside too, but there could be a real positive aspect of it where, hey, I can't come, I'm going to just log into the show. So there's a section of the concert that's all digital avatars that show up and watch. And it's like not too different immersively from a real life experience.
Well, what Facebook is investing in is that like Zoom burnout after 45 minutes, you're like, get me off this thing. What they're investing in is how can it, what does it feel like to sit with someone in a room? How do you quantify that? And then how do you like fabricate that in the digital space? Like there's all these tiny, like infinitesimally small little interactions when you look at
Gestures?
someone's eyes.
Yeah.
What is that? How does that make you feel? And like, and how do you replicate that in the digital world? And it's going to be this other evolutionary step towards like
Realistic
not
cleavage.
Only
Realistic cleavage.
Sure.
That's
Not only do we feel like we're talking, but I literally felt like I was with Dove
Yeah.
and David in the room.
Right.
And it's gonna be like, whoa, that's
Yeah,
wild.
exactly. And I noticed one of the things that's strange is the dizziness, like orientation. How do you feel oriented in a digital space? I
Yeah.
put on Oculus once, and it was like nauseating.
Yeah. So that I mean, they're spending billions of dollars and getting the smartest people in the world to figure out how do we do this?
Yeah, and it's just like, what if
Sad,
where
a
you
little
lived and who you hung out with wasn't restricted by geography? That's such a cool proposition in some way.
Yeah. I mean, already, you know, we have a friend in Israel, and I mean, anytime, I mean, not with the borders closing and everything, but like, I mean, already you're not too restricted. You can get on a plane and see a friend.
Remember when
anytime
someone
you
used
want.
to when someone used to move away like 10, 15, whatever in the
They were
2000s?
gone.
They were like gone until a different stage of life when you bumped into them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you moved, and like you'd see them visit, and they were older.
Yeah, like
and
there's
they had different hair, different outfit, different style. You know, and you'd be like, man, so how was that? Or someone even goes away for the summer, and you're like, wow, you look different after
Right.
that. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Everyone is so on, like everyone is keeping tabs. It's so
Yeah.
easy to do that if you want.
It's cool when you think about that
Yeah.
the world sort of has flattened in that way,
Yeah.
where you just kind of, your only limitation is how you feel about where you are, less so
Yeah.
being limited, you know, from being in touch with people.
I was very overall like I had my fears about coming east and being this, but then I was like in LA this past week and I'm playing a show. We did a show. We had a lot of work composing wise to do, but I'm like, okay, so it's not like it's out of my life. Like this part of my life is just a
Right.
part of it, and it's
Yeah.
connected through Zoom when I'm not there. I'm going back next month, so
Yeah.
all right. I was like, it was that part of it was a good solidifying week for me to be like, okay, my new routine includes LA. It's not LA of past.
Right.
It's not exactly the same, but with the adaptations, there's benefits of being here and with family and everything like that. So that was a really healthy part of the trip. And seeing LA in absolute disarray also was like, wow, it makes me sad because I got a lot of love for it. But and also just like, you know, the way everything is organized there and housing and things like that, it's just like, man, I don't know. I don't know why people put up with it in some way. Because it's like people pay a premium to live in LA. It's very expensive to live there.
Right.
And I'm like, it is? You know, in a sense of like cracked side streets and sidewalks and streets and I don't know. And there's a lot of homelessness still. And I'm like, I don't understand how that goes on. Like at what point does that shift?
Yeah, I am curious about that. Generally, like you're saying, even it's the same thing with the airports. Like,
Yeah.
when do people just say it's enough?
And it's like a pendulum, I guess. At some point, things are so bad that if enough, like JetBlue came in when everyone was hating on the other airlines. Right? They're like, I hate these big airlines, and I'm like, and then JetBlue comes in, and is like, who's JetBlue? What is this? And then I guess it does happen.
Well, but the scary part about that is
Maybe we're gonna hear it. Did you hear about
Again,
Uber plane? Have you taken an Uber plane yet? It's incredible. Although here's another one, Uber. It's gone. I mean, it's there.
it's gone.
When I was in LA, if you didn't have a car, it just wasn't that big a deal. $3 Uber to there, $7 Uber to there.
And how has Uber changed?
You try
I
to
don't,
get
I don't take Ubers anymore. I don't know.
You try to get an Uber in LA. You know, looking for your vehicle, 25 minutes away. When you're standing on the side of a street, vehicle will arrive in 25 minutes, and it costs insane amounts of money.
Really?
It's like triple
Why?
the
When
price.
did that happen?
Just the way it is now. Uber and Lyft, everyone's like, yeah. When you talk to people, they're like, yeah, no, it's been shitty lately.
Yeah, last time when I was in LA, it was like Uber was amazing.
You don't need a car. It's like not worth having a car. Now, and like, we took that for granted, and now I'm not sure if it's COVID, and like it says you must swear you're wearing a mask before you get in, and all this stuff, and I'm not sure if it like decimated Uber because people were just staying home too much, and it, like that economy functioned on active users.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it hasn't bounced back.
Right,
And
well,
you
it's
try.
part of the labor shortage probably too.
Like my
People are
first
why
2
am
days
I-
there, I was hopping on these bird scooters to get around.
Really?
Yeah, I took a few of those. It's fine. I was local enough, but like even finding those were hard. Like the things that were just like magical. Hey, I pull up my phone, click Uber, it just arrives. So cool. And I guess we just take that for granted. But But now it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Things weren't working. And a lot of it was labor shortages. A lot of it. Like things are not working and you need people. Oh, what's with the plane? It's they have to clean it, but there's like one person doing it or something. There's a lot of those problems.
When we
the plane's here,
landed,
but they have to.
We went to Vegas and landed, and we were waiting literally for an hour and a half on the tarmac just to get to the terminal thing to get off the plane. And he kept saying like they're short staffed and like they just don't have enough people to move the plane together. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I just want to say the thing that's scary about what you said is with JetBlue is the market allows for a company to come and disrupt. And if people want to give them their money, they'll give them money and they'll grow. Politically, the scary part, I think, with what a lot of people feel is even if a politician came and said, we're going to change things like homelessness and access and roads and things like that, the system that they're working within doesn't really allow for change.
Yeah, political.
So even if they wanted to, even if people want change, how are things going to change politically?
Sure. I mean, politics has always been like that. Things don't change because the political incentives are very different.
Well, like again, I'm an idiot, but I think in like the 40s and 50s and 60s, it felt like things could change more than recently.
I'm not sure if it was just that the government wasn't as deep-seated in things.
Well, yeah, sure. Well, either way.
What I mean is...
Talking about deep state now?
Yeah, no. I meant like regulations of things. Yeah. Like part of the issues that arise in a lot of these scenarios is like badly mismanaged government, municipalities in L.A. And any politician, the incentives to make people feel good with good speeches and promises can perpetuate a politician's career over and over again through various election cycles. But if JetBlue stops delivering and has too many late flights, it goes under and disappears.
Right.
And all these powerful businesses disappear with bad service as they rest on their laurels. Right. But politicians don't disappear. They stay there forever because all it takes is a new generation of numbnuts who believe what they say. Yeah. AOC's ideas are very, very old. And very, very wrong. I just mean but they're very old. They've been said. Every generation is like lured by some of these crazy ideas, and all it takes is the persuasive ability and rhetoric to get people to elect you. And you make all these mistakes, and there's disastrous consequences. You're sort of distant from those. You can always say, "Oh, we didn't do enough. We could have done more. Obviously, we could have managed it better." But that's why we need to do better. That's why you need to elect me again. That's why Gavin Newsom won or survived a recall. Couldn't get worse than it is getting right now, and he still survives because political allegiances and impulses, whatever they may be, sensibilities. People feel like, no, I still won't vote Republican, or I still won't do this. It's not about, people don't think rationally fully about these things. They think about what's the good and what's the bad. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?
There was a great Onion
Gavin Newsom is the good guy.
I don't know what he sounds like. I don't know what he looks or sounds like.
Listen, Michael. I haven't really done it so much, but he's always pointing like this because that's how politicians point. No human beings point like this. They point like this. But it's been poll tested.
It's very non-threatening.
It's been poll tested that pointing like this is very condescending. It doesn't poll well. But if you point like this...
It's the Bill Clinton thing, right?
It's this, and this, and this. It's... Buckle up. Yeah, they point like this. Notice no regular human being ever does that.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with this mic stand. Ready?
There was a great Onion headline that said... like Andrew Yang starts fourth new party after third party fails to gain traction.
Yeah, his popularity was kind of interesting. I can't figure that out.
No,
I can, but he's just like kind of the friend zoned politician.
Yeah, he's in
the political friend zone. Everyone likes him. It's like great ideas,
right?
Well, I'm going to go hook up with Gavin.
As disruptive as he is, he's like very non-threatening.
Yeah.
You think that's like a
Asian thing?
Yeah, like what's up, prejudice?
Asian persuasion?
Yeah, I'm saying that's people's prejudice.
I don't think it's the Asianness. It's a vibe with him. Mm-hmm. If he was a white guy, but also was like, he's kind of like hokey, like wonky. He sort of just has a vibe. I don't know.
It's very techie, where like he thinks his ideas are gonna get him everywhere he needs to go, but
he reminds me of like someone's friend's dad who's so competent. I'd ask him for any questions I might have, but sex appeal. He lacks political sex appeal.
Yeah.
And like not chill. Not chill. I don't know. Andrew Yang was like this. I think it's almost like his appeal is so how unappealing and like look at this guy. It's like a spectacle.
I think it's a little bit of an Asian thing. I wonder if he was just a good looking white dude.
Well, good looking is also a thing too.
Or same amount of same amount of looks. What is he? What is he? A 5? What do you think he is? A 6, a 7, an 8?
Andrew Yang is a 6.
I think he's a 10 in my book.
I don't know. It's more that how he carries himself, just like.
Well, that's part of it.
Part of being Asian?
No, part of the number.
This is getting dangerous, Michael. We can't get canceled on number 6.
Well, you can't say how good looking you think Andrew Yang is.
You can say that, I guess.
I think you could say that.
You could say that, but you're saying I think it's an Asian thing.
And I think a lot of our attitudes towards him are probably things we're not aware of that if he weren't Asian, we would think of him differently. I do.
Right.
I do.
You mean like what are the stereotypes that people ascribe to Asian?
A lot of the things we're saying. He's non-threatening. He's not chill.
Interesting.
He's not fun. Whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know if that's. I just have a feeling that that's where it comes from.
Yeah, but if like the star of that movie, the 10 Rings.
Chunji.
Yeah. What's his name in real life?
I don't know.
If he ran for office, you might not say that. Just think about that.
Yeah, maybe.
But I hear what you're saying. You're saying that like what people are finding in fault with him is like this, they are painting him with those stereotypical
things that we find faults. Yeah,
right.
Faults, whatever.
Right. Throw those quotes up bigger, quick.
What was I gonna say? What were we getting into before that?
We were about to go Vegas.
I went to Vegas.
It's the same thing like the Bernie appeal. Bernie is just this kind of schlubby Jew who kvetches.
Well, the same thing. Everyone's like he has integrity and he's smart. And he likes Kiddush. The economy, yeah, and he wants to fix the world. Like, where does that come from?
Well, he was surging in popularity, though. He made it almost to the end. So
I know, but I bet a lot of people are prejudiced, maybe in ways that are helpful for him.
Mm-hmm. In ways that are
with the
helpful.
Jewish thing, yeah. Meaning it works against Andrew Yang, it works for Bernie Sanders, but it comes from the same place.
Interesting.
I wonder.
We need to get some diverse guests on this and discuss these things. I would be interested to hear those experiences from people because we have such a narrow little corner of our world, which is valid. It is, but that would be interesting.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of ethnic, in the modern Orthodox Jewish community, it's a funny thing, right? Like, I'm not saying it's inherently a problem. This might be a little off topic, but it's funny what's funny about Jewish people in general, right, is that it's a very like ethnically diverse population overall, and a lot of people don't realize that. Like there's black Jews, Asian Jews, all over the map. That's like a nice fun talking point. Actually, it's a multiracial community. But in our little community, it's not.
No, not at all.
No. Racially, it's one-dimensional. And you just don't grow up because they're just...
In every sense, it's one-dimensional.
Yes. I mean, I don't mean to the exclusion of other things, but it's not by sort of intention. It just defaulted to that way. The European Ashkenazi Jewish community of the tri-state area. I mean, you can count Sephardic Jews as sort of non-white Jews in that sense. But African-American, Asian, outside of that, outside of the like sort of Caucasian Jewish purview, it's very limited. You don't get exposure to. But then again, if you did have diversity, it would still all be Jewish. So you wouldn't get like... Where am I going with this, Michael? I'm not sure. I was saying that...
Yang 2024.
There you go. That's it. I was saying that it'd be nice to have guests from different experiences on this podcast to widen our field of vision. Because realistically, while we didn't start meeting people outside of our community till college.
Right. Could we find a third host from our background who is not a white dude?
Yeah,
It'd be tough.
It would be. It's not that... Right.
It'd be tough.
Yeah, I'd just be interested to hear as we talk about these other issues, like you're talking about the stereotypes of Andrew Yang, what somebody could speak to on that. We're just speculating.
Right. Well, maybe someone will reach out to us to leave a comment.
I think that's what I'm saying, because our world is like this Caucasian Jewish world.
Right.
We only can speculate onto the experience of these other people and these stereotypes. Well, isn't that an Asian stereotype? But we don't really know.
So reach out. Someone reach out, leave a comment, let us know.
We need some diversity training.
You can send a voice note for next episode. Hello.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of Vegas.
I went to Vegas. Yes, I'm a little congested.
Yeah, why?
Went to Vegas with Sarah. First time leaving our daughter with someone, my parents, and we went away for the first time together. We knew we had like a day and a half, 2 days.
The
tops.
dry spell is over.
I don't know about that. Hello.
Keep going. I don't know about that. I'm sorry, Michael. Go on.
No, I don't,
thought
I
you
don't
had
know.
fun.
I didn't know about the fist bump.
Oh.
I don't know where I'm at with that. I'll think about that one. Maybe we could do it at the end.
A little fingy.
We could do a little thinking. So
Vegas.
we went, where was I? I don't know. I don't have anything specific, but
You went to Vegas with your
went
wife
to
for the
Vegas.
first time
Yeah.
away from the kid. It's a big deal.
exactly. And Vegas. When was the last time you went to Vegas?
I went
Have you?
a bunch of years ago.
What'd you go for?
I was invited by a mutual friend of ours, who will remain nameless, to the Encore. It was great.
That's a casino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Encore Hotel, and it was kick-ass. It's an
Were
adult amusement
invited
park.
by a friend for just you and him for
No, Yoni G.
oh.
Who will
What
have
do you
him
mean what do you mean he invited you?
He was like,
Just
"Come,
for
I'm
a
coming
day?
for work. Come to Vegas." Wanted to go to day parties and see
he
David
was, like,
Guetta.
there for a
we
conference
met
or
up.
something?
We met up.
Oh, that's nice.
We met up, and it was quite an experience. But we got to stay at the Encore, which was like the newer Vegas. It's not
Yeah.
new anymore, but the Wynn Encore, like that's the newest hotels, at least at the time. And it was like, when you go to, I've been to some nice hotels, and then you go to Vegas, you're like, this is on steroids. It's incredible.
So I had the opposite experience.
Go on.
We stayed at, we went to go see Fish, and Fish played at the MGM Grand.
MGM.
Yeah, so so you book it, and they make it feel like it's this like luxurious, like elite, like top experience you can have. And then
it tacky
and
as
you
hell?
get there, it's like all of Vegas feels like a cafeteria. It's all public space.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can be anywhere at any time. They can't ask you to leave. You can smoke cigarettes inside. It's just like you're paying a lot of money, and like they make you feel like this thing, and it's like a factory.
Is this your first time in Vegas?
I haven't been. No, I went a few years ago, but we stayed like off the strip.
Right.
And then when I was a kid, I actually went to the MGM, and I thought it was incredible as a kid. It was like the most fun I'd ever had.
That's where I went as a kid.
But this was like, I don't know. I guess the Encore and the Wynn might be different. But it was pretty gross.
There's this tacky sort of Vegas-y kind of hotels of the classic old school. What is it? The Cosmopolitan is a little bit newer, but
Tropicana,
yeah, but there's like
the
that
Golden Nugget,
What's the one? It's like the what's the classic hotels? Mar-a-Lago? No, not Florida.
Bellagio?
Bellagio, right? All those like classic on the strip.
yeah,
hotels.
The fountains.
Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
Like that stuff of old Vegas, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, there's something. It's like cheesy.
Yeah.
And Venice.
Yeah.
What has the Venetian? Is it the Venetian?
That sounds
the
like
Venetian, right? And it's just like a spectacle.
Yeah.
And then there's the Wynn and the Encore a little further down,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it's like more modern Vegas. I'm saying that as if I'm
Yeah.
authority, but when I went a few years ago, those hotels weren't there when like,
And
I was a
it
little
felt
kid.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not classy because it's Vegas. It's over the top, So
Yeah.
but it's like modern over the top, and you're just like,
Yeah.
It's the kind when you watch The Hangover, they go to the Encore and they
Got it.
and they ball out.
That's what I was looking for, and that is not.
and the windows are full
Like.
ceiling to this floor, and
Yeah.
you're just like, damn.
Yeah, and I spent on this trip because I was like, this is like.
You did middle class Vegas, though.
I guess
That's
no,
what
no,
MGM
no.
stands for.
Sarah and I really we middle class Vegas. We found downtown Vegas where it used to be.
Yeah.
With like those old like bulby lights. We went to the Golden Nugget,
Mm-hmm.
and it was amazing. It was so much fun. That was like real. But then also you're looking around and you're like, there are people who like aren't there. Ironically, sort of. They're just like that's where they stay, and you're
Mm-hmm. Right.
also like, huh.
If you go to the Wynn and the Encore, they have like clubs with the hottest DJs, like where Diplo goes.
Right.
There's a club called Excess in the Wynn.
Mm-hmm.
And like Diplo does a set there, and Aoki, Steve Aoki. Like
Right.
these are where the residencies
Yeah.
are. They're the hottest ones. It's like that's what I mean. It's newer.
The MGM has like weird 90s jam bands.
It has like Celine Dion at the MGM Grand. It's legacy stuff.
Got it.
I think that's what it is. But they also have shows at all the hotels. But yeah, as the hotels get newer, that's That's what I think. I mean, that's my experience with Vegas. I don't know it that well, but from what my recollection, that was where like David Guetta performed at the Wynn outside by the pool, and
Right. Yoni's just having the time of his life.
Oh yeah, David Guetta gets like $250K for a single pool party set.
That's nice. That's nice. So we went. Went right after Shabbat. We were like, and we get there, and I'm like to Sarah, let's go straight to the gate because we have just our carry-ons, and she's like, this isn't a carry-on. Like our bags, we have the same bag. We have like the same bag.
And you were treating yours as a carry-on,
and she was like, these aren't carry-ons, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I like travel like a fair amount, like, and I've never ever checked this. But like whatever, maybe she's right. Who cares if she's right? Well, whatever. Let's check them. So we pay like $30 a bag.
So you're already getting bugged,
and we're already late for our flight. But it's like we have to do this. So I'm already getting kind of bugged. We print the things out. She folds it on her like this like sticker that prints out perfectly. I completely messed mine up, and like the barcode is stuck together. But I'm like, whatever. I'm sure I'm not the only idiot who can't figure this out. We bring it to the counter. We went to check it out. We're waiting in line, or like we're already kind of late for the flight. And the lady at the counter's like, "Oh, you don't have to check these. These are carry-ons." And so immediately I'm like,
did you gloat or did you
good.
just
No. I was like, so my intuition was great. Let's take them with us. Whatever we paid for them, but whatever. At least they won't get lost. But Sarah's like, why are you gonna walk around with them? We can check them and they'll take them. We don't have to carry them around. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we checked them. Flight was great. We land. We're waiting at the carousel. Her bag comes out. My bag doesn't. And we're only there for a day. We're only there. This is Saturday night. We're only there.
You checked bags for a day.
For a Sunday. And so Sarah feels awful.
Yeah.
And I don't really care that much.
A little.
But you know that when you're in a relationship that like, it's almost like currency. You're like she feels awful. I'm not gonna be mean about it.
The ladies can let you have it, but you have to really be careful with what you do next.
Yeah, no. So I the truth is I don't really care so much either. But
you think it's currency, but
totally
you know what?
fine.
It gets inflated and devalued. You have maybe 5 minutes to spend it, and then it's forgotten.
Right.
Whereas her issues, you got to make up for it the whole trip. If she got screwed, now it's on you to please her the whole time. But if you got screwed, you have 5 minutes to get upset and like be comforted, and that's it.
Well, this is why I was happy it happened because. I didn't have my bag now for the one day we're there, but my job was to get tickets to the concert we were going to, and I had not yet gotten tickets. So we flew to Vegas, stayed in this nice room, all for the show Sunday night, and I had not yet gotten the tickets.
You just dropped the ball.
To the show. I didn't drop the ball, and she doesn't quite know this yet. So I assured her we'd be fine because the tickets on StubHub, they were expensive, but whatever, worst comes to worst.
You're there and you're adults
like
now.
$300 for a ticket. It's awful, but like we're there, we're gonna do. At least those are
That's
there.
one of those click.
Yeah. I was like, worst comes to worst, those aren't going anywhere,
right.
But we'll probably get lucky and just find someone with extra tickets. And then we're as we're in the car back from the airport to the hotel, I'm checking StubHub, and all those tickets are gone. And the cheapest ticket now is like $800.
So you're like this. She's like looking out the window, and you're like,
yeah. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, I'm kind of happy. Like this bag is a good trade-off because I'm gonna have to.
How
tell
many
her
times
at
did you
some point
look at
we
the
don't have
same
tickets.
unavailable ticket just to like look at it? On
Oh,
your phone?
but I had an alert set on this like face value ticket thing called Cash or Trade for months. Literally, like every 10 minutes for the last 2 months, I've been checking for tickets. And then checking StubHub and the whole thing. I'm still checking StubHub. I'll tell you why. So then I can't sleep that night because I'm like I really.
You mean the night you get in?
The night we get in.
You flew there. You get there on a Sunday morning.
No, we flew there Saturday night, and with the time change, we get there at like 11 p.m. So the show from the previous night is just ending, and we're staying in the same hotel as a concert. So it's really fun. We're talking to people. We're hanging out. People are out of the show. We're really excited for the next night's show. It's Halloween night. We're really excited. And we don't have tickets yet. And then that night, I'm starting to get more and more nervous because I see these even the $800 tickets now, and now the cheapest one's like $1,000. So I'm like, all right, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm like gonna get up right when the concierge opens, go there, and they'll help us out because we're guests at the hotel. They'll help us out. She couldn't have been less less friendly and less concerned, which is also like this cafeteria feeling, like, like it's just so like massive. They can't possibly care about it.
And you can't summon the ire to get people to do things for you, because I can't either.
Oh no,
It's just not my thing. You know, some people can get people to do things for them.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me. I need you.
Right.
I can't do it. I don't even take myself seriously when I do that.
I can hardly even do the sympathy thing. I could hardly even be like, oh, listen, we flew here from New York. Can you please help us out?
I'm always like, no? Oh, all right. No?
Yeah.
Like, nothing? Okay, what? No?
Yeah.
And I just I get defeated quick. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's something to work on.
Yeah. And I'm like, I wish I was a middle-aged woman from Scarsdale right now.
Some people can just vocally turn it on. I've had friends who can just be like, who can just turn it, who can just do it.
Whenever I've like done that even a little and I get what I want, it's not worth it. Like making the person feel awful. I'm always like, could have done
Some
without
people
this.
can do it really smoothly, where they can be taken very seriously and not be a douche about it, and yet they get that kind of, and that's that's always been a challenge. I've gotten better at it over time. But if I'm in like a situation where someone's just not budging,
Yeah.
I don't have trouble finding my way out of that one.
I'm like, all right, thanks.
Yeah, I'm just
you know what I did?
no, or I'll go ridiculous.
what I did
Like a cis bag.
I didn't say thank you when I left. She went, we can't help you out.
That you
Go to the box office. Maybe they can help you out. And I went, okay. And I left.
You showed her just
She brought me
okay.
home that night. I went, what's wrong? There's this guy who didn't say thank you.
Crushing. You delivered a crushing okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we get to the box office, and also we're there for we're only there for a day, and we're already spending our morning just awful. And so we get to the box office, and there's already a line for an hour from the box office, and so we get to the back of the line. Exactly, and these ticket prices are going up and up and up, and Sarah and I are. It's 9.
She has no idea you have no tickets?
No. At this point, she knows. No, she knew we didn't have tickets, but at this point, she knows I was full of shit the whole time. I was assuring her we'd be fine, and she's Sarah's the best. She's very nice about it, very sweet about it. But it's annoying. It's 9 a.m. and we're literally sitting on the floor of the casino on a line of. And the thing about fish heads, people think fish heads are like these like groovy tuvey. Like they're like pretty cutthroat and like scheming when it comes to things like this. So everyone online is assuring us. They're like you're within the first 40. They re-released yesterday. They're going to re-release.
You're in the right place. I've done this 1,000 times.
And then also you overhear them. They already all have tickets. They're all like getting a second pair so they can trade up and give to their friend. Like everyone has a plan, and we're just kind of sitting there. And it's like a nice 40 minutes sitting on the floor, waiting for them. And then the box office opens, and this woman gets up, and she's like, I don't know what to tell you guys. She's like, we are not giving out tickets, not in the next 20 minutes, not in the next 40 minutes. You can sit here if you want, but it ain't happening for you today. And then all of a sudden, all this like good-natured, like fun, like the guy at the front of the line starts yelling. He starts making a list, getting everyone to put their name on it. So it's like first come, first serve. But at a certain point, it doesn't serve the people behind him.
It goes total cutthroat.
It goes total, and then everyone's exchanging numbers and be like, yeah, actually, no, a guy. I might got two for you. And like everyone's doing it, and like Sarah and I are just like sitting there, like
It's just a crushing blow.
oh shit. And then what I did that morning is Sarah. I told Sarah, put on Instagram, hey, we're in Vegas. So maybe we have a friend here. Maybe they'll see it. So as that happens, she gets a call from her friend and she goes, oh my God, she has 2 tickets for us. And that was literally like a moment after I went out to StubHub and bought. I was like, this is existential. I didn't know if we could survive a night just watching TV. I was like, I just have to do it.
And you splurged. You paid $1,000 a ticket.
It wasn't that much, but I splurged.
Something painful.
It was the most
you didn't-
financially irresponsible thing I think I've ever done. I just did it.
I know what you did, and I get why you did it. But you even had those 2 tickets, which didn't need to be said to you. That was just terrible. Somebody got.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. The tickets. Wait a minute. Just so I'm clear, the tickets that were available to you were the ones you bought. Or you already bought and then someone said,
We had already bought it, and then she said,
I have tickets for you for a certain amount. You would have bought those too, right?
For like face value. Yeah.
Oh, and you couldn't flip the other ones and sell them to someone else
Couldn't
or
flip
whatever?
the other ones.
Why?
Oh, no one wanted them for the amount that I paid. And also at that point, it was also like,
You Hail Married before the past was coming to you.
yeah, well,
That doesn't make sense. But in other words, you're the football player. Somebody was open and you Hail Married.
I
to
Hail
the end
Married,
zone.
and I Hail Married, and then someone was like, you still have like 30 seconds.
No, this guy's open right here next to you. You just didn't see him.
Right.
He was about to say, I'm open.
Yeah. So then it was just like, we,
Were they better
like,
tickets, the ones you bought? Please say they were
Yeah,
better.
they're much. No, there happens to be amazing scenes.
Okay.
So just
okay.
like
so
we're
something,
done. Yeah.
It's over, but you were just getting.
But it's not over because I think about it every day. I'm still checking on that on Cash or Trade. I'm like looking at all the free tickets that people are giving out before the show.
I think we've all been there where we just didn't do it right, but did it.
Yeah.
Like everything you did wrong.
Yeah.
You waited at the wrong time. You did the wrong thing, but also what you were doing was just alleviating the stress.
Well, at that point, it wasn't how much would you pay for a concert ticket. It was how much will you pay to salvage this trip.
Yeah.
Like, let's say we missed our flight, and the next flight was $1,000 a ticket just to get to Vegas. I would have paid $1,000 a ticket just to get to Vegas. Like, it's not about the plane
what you were doing
ride.
was ending the turmoil.
I was ending the turmoil.
You were
and just
ending this
allowing us
battle.
to
You're
enjoy
like,
the
I am
day.
going to end this. We are going to have tickets, and once I click this number
Yeah.
for an obscene amount, it will be over. How was the rest of it after that?
Amazing.
Except
It was
that you
a
couldn't
great
stop
trip.
thinking about how.
Couldn't stop thinking about it. The show was incredible, so much fun, and I still think about it every day. And my daughter won't get Hanukkah gifts this year, but
No, that's
She'll
epic.
understand.
Especially the end. I have tickets for you, which would have felt so clutch.
I know.
You also lost that feeling of the win.
Yeah,
Like the victory,
yeah.
it wasn't quite victorious in that it cost what.
I'm ashamed. Really, I was even at the show. I was ashamed.
Yeah, I don't know. other than accepting your choice.
Yeah.
What did Sarah say? She was like, "Oh,
Well, she got an email immediately after from the credit card company going like, "This looks fraudulent. Are you sure you meant to?"
you could have disputed it and said, don't do it." Oh shit! It is.
That would have been the move. After
Now you're going to
after I
be even
picked the
more
ticket
pissed
up-
off.
After I picked this ticket
Because what
up,
you
I
should have said was,
done
"Oh
that.
no, I didn't do that. Someone must have done that," and then they just
Yeah.
fight the charge and it's over. Then you get the tickets
That's
from
the
your friend,
move.
and then it's a win.
That's the move.
I had just bought these Benjamin tickets, and I was able to.
Yeah.
Now you sit with that for another year. Honestly, that is not something I would have thought of in the moment. Okay, that is a post-game solution.
Yeah.
What I just thought of now is I'm calm and measured.
Yeah. The same guy who can get what he wants from the concierge can do that.
More in real time. Exactly. They could just bring those tools available to them.
I
I should have said this. You know those things you should have said to someone who said something
Yeah.
shitty to you? You think of all the best things like an hour later.
I felt bad when we were in the airport talking to United about how to get my bag back. The guy was like, "Do you need toiletries for tonight?" And I went, "Sure."
Oh.
And so he gave me a little bag of toiletries, and I felt bad because I didn't need toiletries. I had my.
You felt bad?
I had my toothbrush in my backpack.
I know people who get entire wardrobes
I also
replenished,
didn't do that.
replenished from a lost bag. People who
should've
wish
done
their
that.
bag was lost,
Yeah.
and then they get a whole new line of. I won't name his name, but it was so funny. I was on the road. I was doing a show like in Florida or something, and one of the other band guys' stuff got lost, and he went shopping that day for his whole family. He bought his kids new sneakers, and he had the airline. They don't know what's in his bag, but they lost his bag. He's like, "This is what I need," and he just bought everything, a whole new line for his.
I bought
You need to
$45
boldness.
underwear, and I was just like, I don't.
Yeah,
want
did you
this.
get your
What am
bag
I gonna
back?
do? Yeah, I got it back the next afternoon.
I haven't lost the bag, but how does that even happen? It's because of your foldy. It's because you
Because
folded
I
it wrong.
checked it. Yeah, the foldy. I think the foldy screwed it up.
How long
But
did your
seriously,
currency last? I mean, at the end.
Until the next morning, and I was like, those step-up tickets aren't going to work. No, she wasn't mad. So, I mean, that's why Sarah's so awesome. She wasn't. She didn't give me her time. But she was like in it with me.
Dropped a lot
She
of
was in it
nice
with me.
Sarah-ism niceties on this pod, by the way. So
It's true.
It's good. So if they're having an issue with us doing this podcast,
Stand by it. If someone feels differently, leave a comment below, and we'll address it on the next pod.
you want to argue with people about the merits of your own wife? Oh, no, very nice. I'm glad she's chill about it. And hey, it's good for travel. You need that for travel. You need a zen.
A zen?
You need a certain zen in someone you're traveling with that, like, however it's working out, especially if you're being spontaneous and figuring it out, you need a zen. Otherwise, it's absolute misery.
Yeah. Well, when I realized Sarah was special was we were traveling. We were in Italy.
Yeah.
It was before we were married, and it was like 10 minutes before Shabbos. It was like crazy. Where were we? We were in Cannes. We were in France, South France. And it was my job to book the hotel. Like parked the car. It was crazy.
Yeah.
She's like, "I'm gonna go check in. I'm gonna go park." I parked the car and I run to the hotel and she's like, "You never fucking booked it." Like,
did you forget to book?
I don't know what I did.
Oh, okay.
And I'm awful at this
Yeah.
stuff. And she was like, "Don't worry though. I figured it out. I got us another hotel."
Well, there you
And I was
go.
like, "Oh,
Score
God,
beans.
be great."
No collateral, no post lingering, nothing.
No, nothing. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
Very
special.
important.
That's a keeper.
Yeah. And I'd been traveling with a buddy another time. Same thing happened.
He bugged out.
Completely like gave me shit about it.
I
for
am
the
not
rest-
a bug
yeah.
out. That's a good thing. Like I'm like kind of the rush of it all. Maybe I become later as an adult when the stakes are higher. But there used to be a time when I was like, all right, we got a pickle. We got to figure this out. I always enjoyed a good pickle.
That's such an annoying attitude.
It would drive you crazy who's a little more of a bug out, right? When I would go around with friends, be like, try to figure it out. Like,
Wait, if you were the one who didn't book it, and I said to you, Ami, you didn't book the hotel, and you went, we got a good pickle.
well, if I screwed up,
Yeah.
that's one thing. If the circumstances screwed up, it usually didn't get me to freak out. I usually was like, this is going to be an adventure.
Yeah.
Or you're lost. You got to figure your way out. Sometimes it just makes things interesting.
I'm-
I don't go like, oh my
Right.
God. I go, well, what happens now? I thought it would be like this.
Right.
I'm like, interesting. Or you get on the wrong train and now you're in Queens and you're like, I took the E. And sometimes that's really annoying, but other times you're just like, when I'm kind of alone, it stinks. When I'm with a buddy or a friend or whatever, like,
I'm the opposite. I'd much rather be alone
screwing up.
screwing up.
For me, it's more like if it's my screw up, then I can feel a little more. I'm more gutted when I'm just like, oh, where the hell? I'm like, this isn't fun. But if I'm sharing the adventure,
Yeah.
it's all good. My wife sometimes feels that way, but oftentimes, when you're trying to do it married, it's a little different. You want things to be smooth because you're trying to just get a break from stress.
Right.
But when you're like living stress free as some teenager, whatever, just like whatever, then anything is, or whatever it is. I don't remember exactly when I used to enjoy that stuff, but. Not knowing how it's going to go
In like Israel, like when
Yeah.
you'd end up like the buses stopped and you were in the middle of the desert.
you make those calls and the
Yeah.
Shabbos clock is ticking
Yeah.
and you make a few calls and all of a sudden you're with Dave Kaufman in a hotel in Tel Aviv and I'm like, thank you for letting me share your floor and bed. He's like, dude, I had so many of those weekends where I'd walk in on a Shabbos, everyone's like,
Oh yeah, you did have a lot of those.
I had a lot of those.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm talking
down
about.
is rejecting your calls.
I always got, you have to play that card occasionally. But
Good man.
yeah. But yes, showing up at a random hang, I used to do that all the time. And it was like Friday. Because also I was like home, like school-less. My school was down there. I didn't default to that. So I'd wander out into the Jerusalem abyss.
You needed a lot of support that you didn't get
Where, then?
from the school.
Oh, no. Yeah, it wasn't meant for that. I would just venture out. Remember, I'd end up at your school.
Yeah, you guys would just go and
Correct.
hope it worked out, which is pretty awesome to do when you're
Yeah,
18.
and it's good training to get resourceful. It didn't make, I relied on other people's resourcefulness often, but that was the best part.
Your resources were other people's resources.
No, I would often be like, all right, so what are we doing? My youngest child. It's just what happens. You're just like, all right, hey. And I joined with some squad. That's exactly what I would do.
Do you remember Revolution?
Yes.
I was
you
just
weren't
thinking
there.
about that
Were
guy.
you there?
I was in a lot on the
Revolution
beach.
was a girl.
Revolution was the girl, and then there was the guy who sat on
You were
his
there?
feet and just spit all night.
You were there?
I was with. I didn't
was
stay
a
with you
lot.
on the beach. It was in a lot, and I heard you guys were there, so I walked down to the beach to find you at night, and you were camping with a woman named Revolution and
me
a
tell you
guy
something.
who just spit as far as he could for hours on end.
He filled up my whole glass. Let me tell you, that of all the fond memories I have of the adventures, that was like one of the darkest nights of my life because I was,
It was
so
cold.
No, like I was so depressed. I was not in a good space. And I was so beyond out of myself or in myself. Dark, horrible. I'm like, that was the lowest of the low.
We weren't good friends at that point yet.
I think we were
We were
friends.
friends.
We were friends.
We weren't like text each other to meet up together friends?
No, you're forgetting your timeline. We hung out Simchas Torah the whole time. Yantif, a bunch in Israel.
If you okay.
We were, but we were also we were in different. We were
Right.
rolling in different crews because
Yeah.
of the circumstances. You had your people, and
Right.
I had mine, and we'd meet up. But Eilat was one of the worst slivers of my chunk of my life, by far. I was a mess. So thanks.
How did
Thanks for
did that
bringing that
night was that your rock? Was that the worst?
That was a rock bottom night for me. I'm sitting there shivering on the ground.
I don't remember you being so.
I know because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I guess not.
I
remember. I remember. Didn't you guys sleep holding each other because it was so cold?
Yeah, but that wasn't the fun kind of thing that I was talking about before, where you're like on this adventure. Mainly because when your mental health is not.
That was homeless.
But when your mental health is bad, everything is bad.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you. I could have been in the fanciest hotel ever.
Yeah.
I would have been miserable.
You were like mentally ill, hanging out with other mentally ill homeless people.
Correct. Except they were a different kind of mentally ill. But yeah, I was like, what she's like, revolution. What's your and like the people we were with Yoni Yona, we were all in this thing and the campfire, and it was like an adventure. But for me, I was just like this. Like I was a wreck. Total wreck. The whole Eilat trip. I think like other people who I was talking to knew about it.
Did you get help soon after that?
Maybe
You got help at some point.
but like I didn't know I needed help until this was the first time.
You didn't know you were depressed. You just thought.
I mean, I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I was like, something's very.
I remember that thing. That happened to me in 10th grade.
I was like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, why am I not
And
having fun?
and that what's happening had happened a few weeks before that. In other words, the descent into.
And you can't tell anyone because you're like.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any
this
sense.
is like embarrassing and doesn't. I don't know how to explain it.
Because it doesn't make any sense. You're like, nothing happened, but something's wrong. And I kind of knew that. But especially in those days, everything was very much ill-defined, and it was this amorphous space. Mental health was an amorphous space.
God, it's like cool to be depressed.
There was no
now.
vocabulary for it,
God,
and you could only talk. The only people I could really talk to were people who were depressed or formerly depressed, which is weird. It's like you have to talk to alcoholics.
Did you know someone like that at that point? Because I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
One person that we both know. I don't think we should name it.
Yeah,
right now.
no, don't name him. Or her.
Yeah. But there was one person who probably saved my life about it because I was like, okay, so I'm not fully alone here. But I couldn't articulate what was going on.
Huge.
In retrospect, I know exactly what's going on. Apparently, it's the most one. It's such a universal experience, but it was not even. I wouldn't say universal because there's different gradations of it for people. But in any event, for me, it was like a novelty.
Yeah.
And I was in a sunken place and didn't know and was confused as to what this was. I couldn't identify it. And I'm sitting there and there's a campfire going on. There's a homeless person there spitting. There's this woman, revolution. It was a nightmare. And I'm shivering on the ground, not knowing if I'll ever be myself again.
Yeah. I remember walking.
Good times, Michael.
I remember walking
Makes you stronger.
away from that, and we all looked at each other. We're like, "Wow, we are glad we're not sleeping with them tonight."
Oh.
It wasn't like a cool
I'm saying.
adventure. It was
Didn't look good,
pretty
wasn't
dark.
it?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I think I had done it weeks earlier. We had done that. Maybe it wasn't Eilat. Maybe it was Tel Aviv. Was this This was Eilat?
This was a lot. It was like Hanukkah break.
It was. I know.
In
It was the
Eilat,
worst.
I remember,
The worst sliver of my life up until that point. I was like, wow. I even called. I think I called my parents in the middle of the night, but it wasn't the middle of the night for them, or maybe it was. I didn't even care. I think they were like, just check in somewhere, get off the whatever. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do.
Walk it off.
No, like check into a hotel and like go to sleep somewhere or whatever. Where are you? Like, what's going on? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to. I don't know what I was saying, but I think at that point, like my dad like booked a flight.
That's nice.
Yeah. That's, I had good
Well,
parents.
that's the difference between, I think, people that go down the rabbit hole and people that don't. They
Maybe
have good,
having people who can
strong
answer
families,
the call.
strong families.
I think at that point that night could have been. I think my mom was like, "Do you need your dad to come? Like do you need someone to come? Something like that."
Wow, and you said yes?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was like an intervention or a self-intervention. I said, "Yes, I do."
Wow. That's not easy.
We'll pause there for a minute. I think it was at sunrise of that night. I came out of the tent. The fire was out. Revolution was passed out. The barefoot man was on top of her with his face in her crotch. Just they were just like that party. The crazy was over. It's very cinematic if you think about it. It was like after all the hullabaloo. Think about it like a nightmare. Revolution, revolution, and you're like, all right, guys, I'll see you later. You abandon us. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like, and we're just shivering. It's freezing. It's
Yeah,
freezing
yeah,
on the
yeah.
beach, freezing. And I walk out the next morning and it's just like glowing red sunrise, dawn, right? And then that's when I made a call. Like I was like, and it was just like, the party's done, little smoke, ashes. And I took out my Nokia.
Yeah.
And I went, "Doot, doot, doot, doot. Do you need someone to come? I need someone to
What
come.
was it about? Was it just your? What was it? Because Yona, I mean,
Did we expect the pod to take this turn? I guess not. But yeah,
No.
what was what?
What was it? What do you think it was about that circumstance that allowed you to get there? Because I don't think it wasn't like the colds that you were like, I need help. What was it? Just the way you felt? You never felt that shitty?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was. I think the circumstances didn't make it easier.
Right.
But it might have been just how long I'd been in it, maximum threshold capacity kind of thing, or like, just like, ooh, and it could have been just that rock bottom coincided with a shitty, time. I'm not sure. But that could be it. I mean, everything's environmental in some way. But I think that might have happened if I was comfortably in a bed somewhere warm, and I still might have made the call. But maybe it was just like, I walked out and hair's like down to my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm in like a pajama shirt. My face is like sunken, eyes glossed over and dead. 09, whatever you call America. Yeah. Is that a place to end it, or should we go a little?
So
Hey, we could talk about that stuff all the. It's a good opportunity.
this was a very special episode.
A very special episode. It
up.
started with a bunch of nonsense and Michael's Vegas shenanigans, and wrapped up with some serious reflection. Yeah. You're going next, Michael. Next episode, you go into your
go
shit.
next.
Jeez, I have many more.
You brought it up.
Did I? Oh, you said, a lot. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't it like one of your adventures? And then you triggered me. We could talk about. I mean, there's many more things to talk. I mean, I find like the mental health topic is a good one. We could cover in a way that's like we could articulate things that might be helpful for people, because one of the hardest things about it is the lack of the limiting vocabulary, especially between like boomers and us and our parents and us, and how it's gotten so much better. Yeah. But there's not a lot of people. It's not a lot of open discussion about it in a way that I think is actually like constructive. There's open discussion about mental health in that it's out there and it's real, but I still think for a lot of people, it's very ill-defined what it means to be depressed, what it means to be, whatever it is you might have going on.
Yeah.
Like, what do these things mean? I think a lot of people think because the conversation is more open now that they know what depression is or other mental health conditions, but they kind of don't. They're just aware that they exist.
Right.
So next week we'll be having Dr. Anyway, any other final thoughts? Because that's heavy as shit to end on.
I had a list of things to talk about, but I think we're probably like over.
We always can feel it.
Yeah, it feels like it's time to end.
So for next week, we'll go into Michael's deepest, darkest horror stories of where he felt the worst about himself, and on episodes.
Or I can tell people when I called your parents and said, I'm gonna need your help.
Oh, you never did that for me.
I never did that for you.
I don't know your home number. I wouldn't have been able to do that for you either. But having said that, it was nice talking to you, Michael.
You too.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, baby.
You owe me this as awkward as it can be after I shared such a deep story. Oh, yeah.
See you next week.
Next week, and maybe we'll have some guests. We'll see. That's it for this week's episode of
Buckle up, baby.